Aye, aye, Captain SpongeBob SquarePants.
5,000! 5,000!
That's some
$5,000! $5,000!
Good evening, ladies and gents. You are with 21 Savage, aka the Saint Laurent Don. I feel vibrant, elegant, exquisite.
Spicy.
Lobbies and Gentlegrams, the Slaughter Gang assassin known for snapping on every album. It's astounding how I thought he was a mountain to be the worst MC of his freshman class, but ended up evolving to surpass the cast of rappers in his league back in 2016. Now it's 2026 and fans are absolutely mixed, divisions high as it could get between Atlanta over a snitch or Labriana over a diss, with 21 caught right in the middle of it. With everything going on, this album was make or break, so would Savage prove haters wrong and deliver his greatest tape? I wouldn't hold your breath or wait, but there's lots to get to and break, so sit back, relax while you make the like and subscribe buttons break.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.
Now, Lobbies and Gentlegrams, since the last 21 Savage album, we've gotten a new president, a new king of hip-hop in Kung Fu Kenny. Diddy got locked up, Kanye became an NAZI, J. Cole apologized, the Clips reunited, Young Thug got released from jail, Gunna's had 2 #1 albums, Kendrick's had 5 Grammys, and the 2 Cartis made almost a decade-long comeback each. Cardi B released her first album in 7 years, while Playboi Carti released his first album in 5 years. So, a lot has happened, and a lot was riding on this 21 album because the landscape wasn't necessarily in his favor. What do I mean by that? You'll understand by the end of this video, but right off the rip, within the first 24 hours of this album's release, you already have people on Twitter saying things like, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, we've reached the point where we don't need new music from 21 Savage anymore. This album is the most tone-deaf, redundant waste of time that has been released this year.
Huh?
Keep in mind, we're talking about a year where we got some of the worst albums from Lil Baby, Travis Scott, Young Thug, and Drake. And this is the most tone-deaf of the year? Nah, so this is the biggest point about why so much has been riding on this album. If you guys want the short version of this video, essentially, mainstream hip-hop has been on the decline for the last few years. Trap music was at the forefront of mainstream hip-hop for the last few years, and it was catapulting it into realms of commercial success that had not been seen before. 21 Savage was one of the most prominent mainstream trap music artists, while trap music experienced its commercial peak.
Say Dada! Dada!
But with the market share of hip-hop in the mainstream decreasing as a whole, and trap music simultaneously sounding more uninspired than ever. And ever since the battle, we have seen people crave and reward artists who are going beyond the status quo, more than we have in a very long time. And with 21 Savage always kind of thriving by playing it safe and predictable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but he was never in a Young Thug
Won't they know?
or Playboi Carti lane where he was constantly trying to evolve and push boundaries. But in an era where everyone's tired of the same old, in an era where the entire Atlanta cast of mainstream rappers are divided, and there being a large amount of division in hip-hop in general after the beef, 21 Savage kind of exists in this weird space right now. So with all that being said, this album, in a lot of ways, was make or break for him. Did he show and prove, or, like that guy on Twitter said, does the world no longer need any more 21 Savage music? Well, to understand why all this even matters, we gotta take it all the way back. Shia bin Abraham Joseph, aka 21 Savage, was born on October 22nd, 1992, in Plaistow, Newham, London, England, to British parents of Caribbean descent. His mother and father separated when Savage was young. He's the oldest of 7 siblings and lost communication with his father at a young age. When Savage was turning 7 years old, his mother took him and his siblings and decided to visit Atlanta, Georgia. As for the reason of their visit,
I don't really remember. I just remember, I'm sure my mama told me where we was going for sure.
Right.
Because I was 6.
Right.
But I just don't remember like that conversation. But I know it had to happen.
You just know you were leaving London.
Yeah. Because I think at first it wasn't a stay thing.
Okay.
I think we was coming to visit. I think it was like, we want to move here, but we finna go see. If we don't like it, we gonna go back.
Right.
Type.
ultimately, Savage doesn't remember why exactly his mother brought the family out to Atlanta, but he remembers they liked it. So instead of just paying a visit, they ended up making it their home. But there was a problem with that would end up biting Savage in the butt. years later. See, Savage wasn't an American citizen. He had a visa. He gets to America when he's 7 years old, and by the time he turns 12, that visa's up for renewal. So him and his mother actually went back to the UK, renewed the visa, and re-entered the US legally from the UK in July 2005 on a non-immigrant visa. But the problem was that non-immigrant visa expired a year later in 2006. So of course Savage would spend the rest of his adolescent life within Atlanta, even detailing in the latest interview he did with Big Bank that he was around 11 or 12 when he was hitting the clubs in Atlanta. That's how early he was already independent, getting into trouble.
Atlanta really a foul. Cause Atlanta really groomed us, bro, since we was kids. Atlanta groomed us since we was 10, 11, 12 on club life, bro. When I was 11, I was taking out trash for $2 in apartments. Just to goddamn get some chucks and some dickies to go to the Cater Skate. Yeah. I've been going to the club since I was 11, 12 years old.
Savage says he knew he had to enter into the streets at a young age because he didn't have a work visa. Selling drugs was the only way he was going to get rich. And Savage grew up surrounded by a lot of poverty and street violence. As a teenager, he was expelled from school for bringing a gun and later spent time in a juvenile detention center before dropping out of school altogether. And by his late teens and early 20s, he became deeply involved in gang life, facing multiple legal issues for the hustling he was doing. On his 21st birthday in 2013, 21 Savage and his best friend Johnny B were ambushed during an attempted robbery, which left Johnny dead, and 21 Savage shot 6 times, including once in the neck. This was a near-death experience, and the loss of 21's closest friend ended up pushing him to rethink his entire life. Once he recovered, he decided to channel his experiences into music as a way out of the streets. In 2014, he began recording in small Atlanta studios, and by 2015, he releases his first mixtape, The Slaughter Tape, followed by the Free Guap and Slaughter King tapes later that year. And those 3 projects were enough to catch 21 a small buzz in the underground Atlanta scene, which would catapult by the next year, as I'm sure you guys know why.
Rollie on my wrist, rollie on my beat, 30 on my waist, 30 to your face.
Now, before we get into this moment, because that's obviously what took 21 to a whole new level, it's important to know what was going on in music within Atlanta at this period of time, because it plays a very key role in how the sound has evolved into 2025 and why it's kind of left 21 at this sort of crossroads within his career. See, back then, 2015, you might have thought 3 quick mixtapes, none of them being very groundbreaking either, all within the span of 1 year. That's not a lot of time or a lot of tapes before 21 is already on his way to superstardom. It took Young Thug like half a decade to get to the point where 21 was at by 2016. It took Future almost a full decade. He was rapping with the Dungeon Family in like 2004 before he fully made it in around 2012. And that was after hundreds, not hundreds, but like dozens of free mixtapes, right? Anyone remember Astronaut Status? Anyways, the difference here when 21 was coming up was that a lot of key players within trap music within Atlanta had been bubbling up at this point for years on end, and everyone seemed very connected. If they weren't personally, at least from a collaborative standpoint. It didn't matter if you were a superstar or a nobody. You could still get yourself a verse from Thug. You could still get yourself a Metro Boomin beat, a Southside beat, Zaytoven. Atlanta had all the best producers at the time. And the artists there worked at such a fast rate, they were pumping out verses left and right. So it didn't matter if you were, again, a superstar or a nobody. They had so many verses to give out, so many fire beats sitting on hard drives. Everybody was eating. And that's why a lot of these guys had very fast rises. I mean, Lil Baby was talking about Young Thug had to pay him to start getting in the studio and becoming a rapper because he was making so much in the streets. But there was so much opportunity in the studio.
I used to pay this nigga to goddamn stay out of the streets. I really sacrifice anything because I see that it can happen. What you finna make today? 20,000? Okay, yeah, 20,000. You don't even owe me. Cap.
And he ended up taking off after about a year. Same thing with Gunna. Gunna took more like 2 or 3 years, but whatever the case is, Savage's come up was quick, and it was stamped on that XXL 2016 freshman cover. Now, that cover produced a lot of superstars. I remember thinking Denzel Curry, G Herbo, Lil Dicky, and Anderson .Paak, they didn't really fit on the cover because I had known about them for at least about a year or two before that cover. But Lil Uzi, Lil Yachty, 21, and Kodak, these guys just felt like a new era. Each of them with their own cartoony, unique style, colorful persona, and colorful aesthetic.
I'm in NYC, I think I got a show there. Yeah. Hold up.
21, to me at the time, watching this freestyle, struck out as the only one lacking personality, lacking charisma in the way he raps, lacking a style both visually and sonically that pops or is really memorable in any capacity. And I remember vividly thinking, like, why would I listen to this guy when I can listen to the Migos, who have a similar sound but 10 times the energy, a lot more melody, a lot more character in their music? But that all changed about a month later.
I got model wanna lick me like some candy.
Hearing Savage Mode for the first time was like listening to a SoundCloud mumble rap version of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. I don't know if that comparison makes sense, but that's what I felt at the time. It was the perfect blend of this production that made you feel like you were in some sort of melodic, hypnotic, haunted house, contrasted with 21 Savage's cold, monotone, detached, but yet chilling and threatening vocal delivery. It felt like something new. It felt unique. And the biggest thing that I think made 21 Savage stand out amongst that whole entire freshman class, because, I mean, if we're talking numbers, he did outperform and outlast all of them. And I think it can be attributed to the fact that he was never afraid to be A&R'd.
Aye, aye, Captain.
If you guys don't know what an A&R is, their job is essentially to find new talent, sign artists, but most importantly, oversee their music. Make sure they're actually developing their sound, telling their story properly, creating cohesive, strong bodies of work that have all the facets of what's needed to push them into superstardom. Now, I was writing these thoughts down before the album actually came out, and that was the number one reason to me when I asked myself, like, why do I think 21 Savage outlasted and actually outsold a lot of his contemporaries? I think it was because he was never afraid to be A&R'd, but we never knew that he was being A&R'd in the traditional sense, right? What I just thought of was the fact that a lot of the times when you saw a 21 Savage release, it was usually just paired with one single other producer or artist. We saw that with the Drake collaboration album, Her Loss. We saw that with all the Savage Mode series with Metro Boomin. Even one of his early mixtapes was produced solely by Sunny Digital. And especially with Metro Boomin, we know he places a lot of value in the sequencing and the cohesiveness and the themes within his specific projects, right? And he definitely brought that to all of his 21 Savage albums. I mean, one of them was even narrated by Morgan Freeman, and just recently in a recent 21 Savage interview, he was saying that was Metro Boomin's idea. And what he also said in that interview, which corroborates what I was saying about him never being afraid of being A&R'd, is they were having a whole conversation about snitching. And he was saying, you know, people misconstrued what snitching actually is, and they think, oh, it's just street guys who are being stupid and created this dumb rule, when in reality, a lot of other people in different facets of life also follow the code of snitching. It really just comes down to loyalty, not telling on your brother, whatever the case is. And use the example of how many people in this room right now in this interview with us got in trouble by your mom for telling on your younger sibling. And he points to all the different people in the room, pointing them out by title, right? Saying, this guy's not a street person, that guy's not a street person. He says, like, you know, there's the camera guy right there, he's not a street guy. And then he points to an A&R. He literally says an A&R is with them in the room. So that's a long tangent to say 21 Savage is about 10 years into his career, and he still has an A&R with him directly on his team, traveling with him as he's doing these interviews.
All these people are from different walks of life, brother. She does audio. He works the camera. He's my manager. I don't know what she do. I don't know what she do. I don't know what she do. She's an A&R.
So you can tell he's calculated with the way he moves, right? And I bring up this A&R thing because the art of being an A&R is dead. That's actually initially what I wanted to do in the music industry. When I was younger, I was like, I want to be behind, you know, finding new artists and helping them develop their projects. Because if you notice, like, projects released before the streaming era where labels had to actually, you know, pay for physical copies of the CDs to be printed and then distributed to stores, there was an actual cost behind producing a project. A&R was a much more prevalent role because artists weren't allowed to just release whatever the hell they wanted to, because that costed the label money. So you needed the A&R to do kind of like quality control on the projects. Nowadays, with the streaming era, you could just press a button and boom, your music is released to billions of people, right? That's why everything today feels like a mixtape, or the line between a mixtape and an album has been blurred, because Apple Music and Spotify, they act the same way DatPiff used to. All you have to do is just press a button, so you can treat your projects like mixtapes and just flood the market with as much music as possible. And for that reason, you wouldn't need an A&R to put out that high of a degree of music, right? But 21 Savage takes the opposite approach.
Won't they know?
Say Dada! Dada!
He's releasing a project once every, let's say, 2 years. And these aren't like 30-track albums like a lot of his contemporaries, right? They're like 12 to 14 song albums, very concise. There's always usually a hit or two on there. The features are intentional. The producers are intentional. The sound feels like it flows well together. You could tell he emphasizes quality over bloat. Now, you gotta also think about his flow, right? He's got almost like this deadpan way of expressing himself on a mic. He really slows it down in this chilled out way, but because of that, the way he pronounces words are actually a lot more comprehensible or understandable than his contemporaries, right? Like if you listen to a 21 Savage song versus like Young Thug, Future, Gunna, Lil Baby, even like Travis Scott sometimes. 21 Savage, he's not ever mumbling. You can clearly understand him, right? Which actually gives him an opportunity to connect with listeners on a higher and more emotional, heartfelt level. Because while a lot of these guys do get vulnerable and open up on records, 21 Savage, it's a lot more clear-cut when he actually does. And there's examples of this on his new album, which we'll break down shortly. But because of this, I feel like I personally know a lot more about 21 Savage than I do a lot of those other rappers that I mentioned, especially the ones that came out of Atlanta during that same era that 21 Savage was blowing up. And I think those are the two main reasons, the fact that he wasn't scared of getting an A&R and the fact that you can actually understand what he's saying. And because he's had an A&R, he's actually improved his lyrical skill set over the years. Those are the main reasons why I think he's actually achieved a lot more than the competition. 21 Savage has longevity, man. If you look at his entire catalog, he has not sold under 100,000 copies in the first week of any project since 2018. No other rapper from his generation or the generation after him can say the same. Aside from Playboi Carti and Future, and Travis if you want to put him in that bracket, all the other guys, Kodak, Lil Uzi, Lil Yachty, Young Thug, Gunna, Baby, sure, some of them have maybe seen higher highs than Savage, but the thing is Savage had stayed more consistent than any of them. But forget about the past. Can he do it again is the question.
Spicy.
His last album came out about 3 months before the Drake and Kendrick battle. And to me, that project in particular, along with Vultures 1 by Kanye West, which came out about a month after the 21 project, marked an important sign that hip-hop needed something to shake it up. 2023, we hadn't seen a #1 album till the middle of the year, which was unheard of at the time. We also hadn't seen a #1 record till I believe the late end of the year with Drake and J. Cole on that first-person shooter song. Hip-hop's market share in the music industry as a whole was being eaten up by Latin and country music, and while people today want to scream out hip-hop is dead, these conversations were actually a lot louder in 2023. People just don't remember because of recency bias. But all those convos about, oh, there's no, hip hop on the billboards right now, those conversations were actually worse in 2023. So yeah, by the beginning of 2024, we get this very mediocre 21 Savage project that marked the fact that we needed something new to shake the industry up. It was a new year, capping off the slowest year in hip hop from a mainstream perspective in a very long time. The whole trap sound was kind of dying out again from a numbers perspective, and 21 Savage was one of the bigger voices within that subgenre. And he just put out a project that felt like there was no evolution or inspiration towards it. And for an artist who I felt like from 2016 with Savage Mode all the way up until that 2024 project, he had elevated, if not evolved, then at least elevated majorly from album to album. This was the first time I feel like we were just getting the same old from him. Wasn't necessarily a step back, but definitely not a step forward. But just about 2 months later, the game got absolutely torn up.
I love when artists grit their teeth.
You created this massive cultural award-winning anthem out of a battle rap song.
My intent from day one was to always keep the nature of it as a sport. I think a lot of people was putting rap to the back and you didn't see that grit, you didn't see that bite anymore.
That mediocre 21 project, coupled with the Drake and Kendrick beef, left 21 at a crossroads. the industry all seemed to pick a side, right? Future, Metro Boomin, they were heavily collaborators of 21 Savage. They also kicked off the entire Drake and Kendrick beef by hosting Kendrick Lamar to send off that initial shot on Like That, right? You also had Playboi Carti later on take Drake off his album to put Kendrick Lamar on there 3 times. But then on the opposite end, you had Lil Baby and Young Thug who were doing interviews riding with Drake, defending Drake and all that. We saw Drake give Young Thug $1 million when he came out of jail. So you know he was trying to position himself accordingly within the Atlanta scene.
You know what they did, man. Fuck all y'all pussies, man. For real, man. I see y'all boys outside when I see y'all, man. For real, man.
And 21 Savage was actually one of the first, if not the first rapper to collaborate with Drake after the beef on the song It's Up that Drake released on his Plot Twist account. Even on the song Gimme a Hug by Drake, he references Savage saying that he's the only one who checks in when Drake is going through some crap. And I think this was strategic of Savage, but at the same time you have to ask yourself, does the Drake stimulus package have nearly the same amount of impact in 2025 as it would in 2018? Because if Savage ends up isolating himself to defend Drake, but those Drake collaborations don't actually do much to propel Savage's career, did you end up just digging yourself in a hole or in a corner? Hey, stepping in to just add something here about a day and a half after the album came out. No, the answer is no. As you can see, you would have been better off with the Mariah Carey or the Pooh Shiesty stimulus package because as you can see, the Drake 2025 feature does not get you that #1 spot on the streaming platforms. Maybe if it was a Kendrick feature, it would have done numbers for 21 Savage's album, but not the Sexy Red Stunt double stimulus. After this, another instance of immense division within hip-hop occurred when the entire Gunna and Young Thug situation capitulated after Young Thug was released from prison and all of those jail phone calls leaked online. See, 21 Savage was the main person on those phone calls with Young Thug. So when Young Thug was revealing all that information, whether it was about faking Gunna streams, using bots on Gunna's music, wanting to destroy his career, Lil Baby and Lil Durk jumping out the gate too early to diss Gunna before Young Thug even said anything, dissing a bunch of Atlanta artists from Migos to Gucci Mane to Future. 21 was behind all these calls, and while he was mostly the voice of logic and reason, he did also say some things that didn't paint him necessarily in the best light, right? Like when Young Thug was talking about destroying Gunna's career for snitching, 21 Savage was basically implying like, you own the guy's music. Why don't you just steal all of his profits going forward? Let him still have a career, but don't let him necessarily eat. Take all those profits.
Man, you on Jeffrey Williams in the car. It was a gun and drugs in the car. Was it yours?
He probably said that though, bro.
100%, but you
that's the only part I don't agree with. I disagree with you on. The other shit, he dead ass wrong. But that, like, nigga, it wasn't yours neither. It was the who took the charge shit.
Yeah.
Cause I don't, in my heart, but I don't feel like Childish did what he did with the intention of hurting you. You feel what I'm saying? I don't really get that vibe from him. I feel like he just green. That's just my opinion.
I just look at it. God damn sure was thinking about that one day, like, man, I'm just gonna goddamn. I ain't finna say nothing about this shit. I'm just woo. I might just be like, man, them folks did what they had to do. I don't feel like that was wrong. I swear to God, I was thinking about doing that before, but I'm like, what the hell? That's gonna change. Cause I feel like it's really over with for your rap career. The album you put out might go #1, but that's it after that. You know what I'm saying? It's like on some real shit now.
Nah,
Cap.
You hold his career in your hand, bro. That's what I'm telling you. If you come out right now and tell the world what he did went wrong, cause them folks already on the internet like, man, God, that he rocking with them. Ever since he dropped that song, they like, man, we rocking with him. If you come out and tell the world that you was in agreement with that shit, his career ain't over. That's why I said, like,
I understand that part, but now think about niggas like you, Wham, Dirt, Pluto, who I really with, who like my brothers who already done like cut ties. Imagine niggas that y'all already done cut ties with a nigga, and then I come and be on the side after they did what wrong. They can call me.
Yeah,
but
you
know what I'm saying? It's just like I'm slapping y'all in
No, it ain't. Cause niggas need to stop jumping the gun. I don't know, bro. It's like
how you call that jumping the gun though?
Cause at the end of the day, saying fucking nigga, what that's really finna get him for real.
Ultimately, it just didn't seem like anyone from Atlanta was on the same page at this point in time, which was a stark contrast from the very, come one, come all, free-flowing collaborative nature we saw early on in 21's career when he was able to propel his stardom so quickly because rappers. Times were changing, and ironically, it was the rapper who was most isolated, most hated and isolated, who rose above all the division and became the most successful. Gunna. Especially when he just came out of jail, everyone was wondering what's Gunna gonna do. He's not gonna have any features, any stimulus packages on his albums, no Metro beats, no Weezy out of here. He's gonna be out of here, Gunna, right? Nah, the opposite. He reinvented himself.
Won't they know?
So as much as they wanted to team together to start hating on Gunna, it didn't really work because he was just putting out the better music. Now, the thing also with 21 Savage is, like I said before, in my opinion, he never necessarily took big risks with his career. He never evolved massively. He was always just extremely consistent. So because it was the most dominant subgenre within the mainstream, the same way that back in, let's say, the early Young Money days, when Wayne was still in his prime, Nicki and Drake were taking off, everyone was collaborating with each other, you might have heard more about Gunna Gutta or Chanel or J Mills or T Streets back then, just because of who they were standing next to. That's probably a crappy example. It's more like when the blog era was taking off, right? And you had J. Cole, Drake, Kendrick, Wale, etc. They were all kind of rapping from less of a gangster approach and more of a vulnerable approach, right? Then you had guys like Big Sean, who, in my opinion, was never the top #1 guy, never stood out the same way a Kendrick or a Cole did lyrically or with their projects, or the same way Drake did from a commercial standpoint, right? But because their sound was so dominant, Big Sean was kind of able to ride the coattails, stay consistent, keep putting out decent project after decent project, and because of that, he was able to strive in that era. But when the blog era became the SoundCloud era, and then you started seeing trap music emerge, Big Sean kind of took a back seat because he didn't necessarily adopt a sound or a unique style that stood out to stand the test of time, if that makes sense. I bring that up or compare that to 21 because in 21's case, he was again coming up in an era where trap music was bubbling to soon become the biggest subgenre within hip-hop, right? When 21 Savage was at his peak is when trap music was at the forefront of hip-hop, and when hip-hop was at its commercial peak and had the highest amount of market share in the music industry as a whole. So 21 didn't ever need to be the #1 guy. He just needed to be the most consistent guy in the biggest era. He didn't have the insane, run where everyone was calling him the next Lil Wayne like they did with Lil Baby. He didn't have a bunch of his little clones running around like Playboi Carti does, or starting a whole movement like Carti did with the Opium movement. He didn't have a solo single as impactful that broke boundaries the same way an EXO Tour Life did with Uzi. He never had a year like a Future or a Thug where they were dropping project after project, each one hitting harder than the last, right? He was always just super consistent and reliable, a good project every 1 to 2 years. He played the background well. I think that was evident in his 2016 Cypher, right? With all those guys, Lil Yachty, Kodak, etc. He just leave 21 Savage.
I feel vibrant, elegant, exquisite.
Spicy.
The Atlanta hip-hop scene is nowhere near where it was back in 2018, and 21 is still kind of playing the background. But does he have the same resources? Is the landscape today still in his favor? Trap music within the mainstream started becoming weaker in around 2023, and it was in 2024 that we saw 21 Savage put out his weakest project so far, in my opinion. So the question going into this new album was the last project the start of a fall-off or the beginning of a comeback? Now, before we actually got the album, we got an interview between Savage and Big Bank, which is interesting because Savage doesn't usually do too many interviews. And of course, we saw the virality that came from Big Bank's interview with Young Thug. And before we tackle the subject matter on the album and where it leaves Savage, I thought the interview was interesting in terms of 21's perspective on what's going on right now. I mean, he's talking about the streets, but that's not what's interesting to me. I think it's more interesting how he's reflecting on everything going on within the music industry. Because again, he's kind of caught in the middle between a lot of these conflicts, a lot of this division.
Won't they do? Yeah, correct. Won't they do? Plug a wreck. Won't they do? Won't they do?
I study.
Won't they do?
For a living.
So when he's talking about the streets, I'm applying it more to street rap, right? A lot of these street rappers and that sound that might not be as prevalent as it once was. And Savage says the reason for that might be because the streets are not where they once were. People aren't looking to get in the streets to really make money. He's talking about how when he had to go into the streets, again, it was because he didn't have a green card, right? I think I forgot to mention earlier in this video, 21 Savage actually ended up getting arrested by ICE, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Atlanta, for overstaying his visa. Remember how I told you guys he went back to the UK when he was around 12 or 13 after spending around 5-6 years in Atlanta? He goes back to the UK, gets another visa, but that visa is only good for 1 year, till 2006. But of course, he ends up staying until 2019, where he's arrested. Now, this was huge news at the time because people thought he just spent his entire life growing up in Atlanta, when really he had an entire childhood in the UK. And it was only by September of 2023 when he would be able to actually go back to London safely for the first time, because that's when he was granted permanent US residency. So yeah, a long side note to say that because 21 at the time didn't have a work visa, when he was in Atlanta as a young kid or a teenager, he had to resort to the streets because there was no other way to make real money. But he's saying that back when he was a kid growing up, you turned to the streets to hustle, to make money, right? To sell drugs or whatever it is to make $1. You didn't go to the streets for cool points. You went to the streets because it was the fastest way to make money. He also said that, again, if his best friend Johnny, who ended up dying, didn't end up dying, he probably would have gotten rich off the streets and never actually resorted to rapping. And 21 says nowadays people don't go to the streets anymore to focus on getting rich. They focus more on the gangbanging, the violence, the killing, the drilling. And the reason for that might be because it's harder to make money in the streets at this point unless you have connections or if you're high up or if you've been doing this for a while. This is what 21 Savage is saying, right? It's hard to make money in 2025 in the streets. It could also be because, you know, the camera on a Tesla can catch you robbing a house in 4K at this point, right? It's a lot harder to get away with crime. So 21 is saying people these days, they don't turn to the streets for money. They turn to the streets more for clout or maybe for violence or for protection. And 21 says in the interview, it used to be, you know, going into the streets, you'd either be dead, in jail, or you'd get rich. Now the only two options are being dead or in jail. There's no getting rich at this point. And there's no code of ethics. They spend a good hour and a half in this interview debating the morality behind snitching. I'm not going to get into that whole rabbit hole, but I thought a couple of these points were interesting. 21 starts talking about how the internet these days dictates everything. You have guys like Trap Lord Ross who are putting 19 bodies on NBA Youngboy just because of his lyrics in a new YouTube documentary, right? Savage says that the internet is dictating reality for a lot of people at this point because they don't see through the facade. They don't know that half of what you see on the internet, or 90%, is all cap. He says there's been multiple narratives about him on the internet through documentaries or whatever that are just complete BS. And that's what's also killed the streets, is that the internet is trying to control the narrative. He also, like I mentioned before, brings up the whole point in snitching, in that people think snitching is some stupid thing that street guys invented and they're using it for stupid purposes, like to get away with crimes and letting themselves be locked up for decades without seeing their family, all to uphold this stupid code. He says ultimately it's not like that. Snitching is applied to every single class of life. Police officers who do something, they don't snitch on each other. When you're growing up, again, your mom tells you don't snitch on your younger sibling or don't tattletale. And Savage is right in that regard, in that in the internet age, loyalty is dead. People don't see the value in it. And what I find ironic is that he's friends with Akademiks. Like, he was previewing this Akademiks for days before it dropped. He was on phone calls with Akademiks when it dropped. But meanwhile, Akademiks is one of the main guys who's propping up this narrative that snitching is a bunch of BS, right? He's the main one propping up how stupid the streets are. And his best friend is the one guy in hip-hop who proudly wore that snitch title and tried to make snitching cool, right, in Tekashi 6ix9ine. And Savage also disses him. So there's kind of this weird hypocrisy going on, right, where it's like you're friends with Akademiks, the one guy who props up and fuels this narrative from Tekashi that you're against, but you'll go at Tekashi. It's like, why not keep that same energy for both? And regardless, they had their little back and forth the other day on the internet. Savage dissed 6ix9ine in the interview, and then 6ix9ine responded, making fun of Savage for being from the UK, of course.
Still ain't getting no money like that. Well, like the rap boy. Ooh. We been wearing lace fronts and shit. The nigga who told in New York, man. Who told all them niggas in New York. The Mexican. The internet took his shit down.
I think he just stopped.
Nah, cause he can't go.
My dear, can you bring me the next applicants? We have Shea bin Abraham Joseph III. And can you fetch me some tea?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Thank you, dear. How you doing, sir? What are you here? So I'm seeing, according to my documents, you want to go to America.
I need to go to America. Please, I'll do anything. I can make it. Trust me, I can make it. I can be an Atlantean.
Are you not happy where you're from?
I'm not. I want to go to Atlanta. I need to. You gotta understand, I need to be from Atlanta. I need to be a gangster rapper. I can't be Central C and Skepta and these guys. Nobody takes them serious. Please, I'm begging you. I know Jay-Z. I can call Jay-Z. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. You can have my chain.
Bloody hell.
Please. It's moist tonight, but it's good.
So me taking a closer look at your file, you're born Shea bin Abraham Joseph III, born in our beautiful country of the United Kingdom. What is it, sir? Do you not love yourself? Do you not love who you are, this country?
No, I hate it here. I need to change my identity. Nobody takes us serious. Nobody's gonna take me serious as a gangster. I have to go to America, please.
Is it this you want? Bloody hell.
I need it.
You are a traitor to this country.
I need it.
Okay. I can't believe I have such a traitor, such an imposter, to want to be an American. Visa denied. Fucking traitors. You've been denied once, you'll be denied again. And for being a traitor, bailiff, take him to jail. Take him to jail. Take him to jail. Traitor. Traitor. Traitor our country.
Now, one thing Savage goes into that part of it I agree with, part of it I definitely do not, is the whole battle between Drake and Kendrick. He prefaces it by talking about how when you're the top guy, people just want to see you lose, and that's why they hate, right? Like, he brings up how Lil Baby was the top guy. Now everyone craps on Lil Baby, talking about Lil Baby fell off, when in reality he's putting out the same music he was beforehand. And that, I think, is the problem that a lot of these guys don't understand, because they're not focused on the art first, they're focused on the money first. And you'll see that in Savage's response to the whole Drake and Kendrick battle. They're focused on the money first, not the art, which is fine and all. But you have to understand that there's a human, intangible element to the art that the fans are going to grasp, that an artist who's only focused on tangible items like money might not be able to process, right? If you're stuck in this little matrix, you're putting out the same album, same music over and over again because you think that's how you get to the bag, you're not going to realize when fans are just basically sick of the same sound over and over. And then you're going to think, oh, I've been getting so much money, I've been at the top for so long, it's just the hate got too out of control because people just don't want to see me win anymore. That's a cop-out. I have no incentive to crap on a Lil Baby song or crap on a 21 Savage song. If the music is genuinely good, I would get more views praising the album than actually hating on it. I mean, the numbers don't lie. You could look at my channel itself. I've made videos clowning some awful music that we've gotten in the last 12 months, but I've also made videos documenting and highlighting some of the amazing moments that we've seen this year. And if you look at the most viewed videos on my page, you'll see that it's not the hate videos, not me hating on a Young Thug album, a Wayne album, a Drake album. It's me highlighting the massive, amazing moments that Kendrick Lamar brought forth to the genre this year, or Tyler, the Creator's incredible run over the last 12 months. I bring this up just to say, like, yeah, there might be a sector of people who are just hating to hate because they're bored, but ultimately, if your music is crap, people aren't just telling you that because they don't want to see you win. It's because they probably loved you at one point and they're just disappointed that your soul doesn't seem like it's in it, which is very easy to happen when you're only doing this for the love of the money, right? Now, I bring this up because this is how 21 Savage led into the whole debate between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. It's a cop-out, but he was saying with Drake, it's like Drake didn't lose anything. It's just that he was at the top for so long, so now people are hating because they just don't want to see him win because he was at the top for so long.
I study rap battles for a living.
Cap. Now, here's where I'll agree with Savage. Savage goes into it saying, like, this was a lose-lose situation for Drake from the beginning. And 100% I couldn't agree more. This is exactly what I had said in the first video on the Rapaholics YouTube channel that ever ended up taking off. I said, Drake has everything to lose, nothing to gain from going into this beef, but not necessarily for the same reasons that Savage thinks. My reasons were simple. I said Kendrick is a way stronger MC. There's no world where Drake actually wins this. And meanwhile, if he just never responded, the majority of his fans anyways are not real hip-hop fans. They're more pop music fans or fans in the mainstream. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's more so like, it's not people who are going to hold your reputation to a fault because you didn't engage in a rap battle, right? And to the rap purists who might leave that as a stain on his legacy, it's like his legacy was already tarnished with them to begin with, right? With the whole ghostwriting thing, with the whole Pusha T battle. I think it's a lose-lose for Drake to try and prove himself in that realm regardless. But 21 Savage thinks differently. He doesn't think it's a lose-lose situation for Drake for those reasons that I just named you. He thinks it's a lose-lose because Drake is just too big. So even if he won the battle, if he didn't win the battle, if Kendrick said something, if Kendrick didn't say anything, regardless of what went down, Drake was at the top. You can't go further than the top. So this battle wouldn't have helped his career in any capacity.
They want to tear the top down. Yeah, nah, for sure. So how can you win a battle when niggas want you to lose it? Even if you win, you lose. No matter what. Even if Kendrick never responded, man. If Drake just dropped songs and goddamn Kendrick never responded or nothing, he still don't win because his position didn't change.
He was already the top.
Now, then they say something else that I disagree with. See, so Bank goes into the fact that, like, hearing those diss tracks at that Super Bowl, that hit different, right? Like, that's a different type of look to be crapping on your opponent on a stage like that. And Savage says, see, this is what I was talking about. This battle was a lose-lose for Drake because Drake was able to give Kendrick Lamar the clout and the power up he needed to be able to perform on that Super Bowl stage. If Drake won the battle, he wouldn't have been able to get these opportunities. Kendrick wouldn't have been able to level him up if he won the battle. I completely disagree there because Meek Mill is the prime example of that happening. Drake was a lot bigger than Meek Mill. Meek Mill was a lot smaller of an opponent than Kendrick Lamar was, right? But because Drake won that battle, he built the next 12 to 15 months of his entire brand around that rap battle. It most definitely powered his brand up. I mean, he had the whole revenge campaign, right? Where he went on that revenge tour where he performed back-to-back every night. He had the OVO Fest where he performed back-to-back multiple times with all the memes on the stage. He had a whole SNL night dedicated just to him where they did multiple skits involving back-to-back. He completely eradicated all the discussion about the ghostwriters because he won that battle. That battle most definitely helped boost Drake's reputation. So imagine how much more that would have been exemplified if he actually won against an opponent like Kendrick Lamar, who, while they try to downplay his success, Kendrick Lamar has always been toe-to-toe with some of the biggest mainstream acts within hip-hop. From a numbers perspective, from the numbers he puts up on tour, the constant hits, the massive impact that all of his projects have, Drake winning a rap battle against Kendrick Lamar would have done a lot more for his career than winning a rap battle against Meek Mill. And if Drake was really the one responsible for, getting Kendrick on that Super Bowl stage, then why couldn't Pusha T get a Super Bowl performance after winning his rap battle against Drake, right?
That shit sound different when them folks goddamn playing your shit Super Bowl. But this song? Yes. Huh? I guess. Numbers don't lie. That shit gotta feel a certain type of way, boy. You talking about to hear this you at a Super Bowl? Yeah, and to goddamn them arena, them folk like, Kendrick been a great artist all this time or whatever. Yeah, for sure. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he ain't had that look. That Drake this run look been his biggest look. Drake couldn't get that from him. That's my point was. Yeah.
Nah, but this is where it gets crazy, all right? So 21 Savage takes it a step further. It's not just that Drake winning this battle wouldn't have done anything for Drake's reputation. It's that if he won this battle, he would have been looked at as the villain because Kendrick is one of these, praised MCs who's not quite as big of a real artist as Drake is, but he's praised a lot higher. He's the underdog. So people would have been crapping on Drake even if he won for being too mean to Kendrick. That is the biggest piece of baloney I've ever heard in my life. Not only for the fact that, again, Kendrick Lamar in some years throughout the last few has been outselling Drake. If you want to take a look at Damn versus More Life in 2017, if you want to take a look at Mr. Morale versus Her Loss in 2022, if you want to take a look at Good Kid Mad City staying consistently on the charts compared to a lot of Drake albums from those eras, if you want to look at their tours head to head, how much they sold, people downplay Kendrick's commercial impact, which, whatever, you could still say he was the underdog. That's not something I would disagree with from a numbers perspective, right? But to say that Drake would look like the villain
He would have just been looking like he tearing a good nigga that mind their business down. It's rigged, man. Yeah. Even if Drake won, he would have been the bad guy for winning. Like, they would have still been like, man, fuck that. Because Kendrick one of them rappers. Like, goddamn, he know how to say, like, different shit, like, right and shit. You get what I'm saying? Like, J. Cole like that. Like, they could consider them, like, the holy MCs, MCs.
Do you understand the type of narrative that was going on for those 17 days in between Drake releasing Push-Ups and Kendrick releasing Euphoria, when Kendrick was dead silent? How much bullying and antics Drake's team did on Instagram, taunting Kendrick for not dropping. Drake dropping a second track, Tailor-Made Freestyle, where he's literally begging Kendrick Lamar to drop. The entire Push-Ups record was drop and give me 50, drop a 50 bag in the mob for the whatever the hell he says in that song. The whole theme about Drake's approach to this battle was taunting Kendrick that he could not drop and begging him to drop. Bringing up Kendrick's fiance right off the rip. I don't need to give you guys a list of examples. Drake was ruthless in his own right off the rip, and no one seemed to care, as they shouldn't. It's a freaking rap battle, right? No one was giving Kendrick Lamar sympathy. The world was waiting on Kendrick to say something, and they were scared that Kendrick was scared. I mean, take a look at life before Euphoria dropped. Just to give yourself a little reminder of how everyone was so outraged that the underdog in Kendrick Lamar was getting bullied by Drake, right?
And his energy, not one time, not a couple times, it's been every time. I'm ready and waiting, and he got so ready and waiting, he realized Kendrick seen pussy, he dropped first. Let's talk about it.
And Kendrick, you on the clock. Yeah. It's all on Kendrick now. Kendrick has been calling for this. He's been asking for this for several years, and he got what he wanted, so now it's time to show and prove because Drake said it.
Yo, Kendrick, he's begging you to drop. The pussy shenanigans is over. The bait and switch, the bluffer Olympics is done. Drop your fucking 4-year-old song that you could get demolished.
I think it'll happen eventually. Kendrick will respond, but it won't be the battle. It won't be like back and forth.
Drake believes that Kendrick Lamar doesn't have a response to the Push-Ups drop and give me 50 diss that he dropped. And then Drake put, use me as a they have nothing to drop button.
I don't know. I don't think Kendrick's cooking up. It don't take him 3-4 weeks to I think that's over. It don't take 3 or 4 weeks.
I'm sorry. Drake is like a genre of music, my nigga. Like, you're stuck on an island. Imagine if all you can listen to is all this militant, we gonna be all right, left, right shit. Fuck out of here, nigga.
I think still through all of this, we find out that all of this Candyman, Boogeyman shit that your generation kind of dubbed Kendrick. Y'all just kind of ran and thought that Kendrick was this bully that ran through the industry and nobody wanted to battle.
You rap every 5 years and you come with this bullshit now?
Drake up right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drake up right now.
Absolutely.
Because Drake took it farther than Kendrick ever has.
The audacity of motherfucking a nigga who goes by the name Kung Fu Kenny to attack the GOAT in the 9th inning. After that nigga just gave us back-to-back tours, back-to-back-to-back albums, that nigga Penn been on a world tour. He finally took a break. And now, you want to diss the fucking GOAT?
After what I heard with Push-Up, you need to take a breath. You take your time and reply correctly. Because like I said, Drake dropped his takeover, so now you got to give us your ether. If you got the ether.
That's what he do anyway, though. He takes his time.
He should.
4 years.
No.
He better come back faster than that.
That's what he do anyway, though. He takes his time.
He should.
4 years.
He gonna fuck Kendrick up. Yeah, he gonna fuck Kendrick up. You see how dedicated he is looking at his phone? He's gonna fuck Kendrick up. He's gonna fuck Kendrick up.
Kendrick is on the fucking clock. The clock is
Kendrick is on the fucking clock.
It's been ticking.
It took Drake 3 weeks.
No, it did not.
Yo, Drake in the club looking like he about to do the Thanos snap, man. Get rid of half the rap game. Fuck it.
Chubbs, so this is Drake man's Lil Chubbs. He said little boy Kendrick should drop Drake this, but he no battle. Ooh.
Not going away. Like, this is a battle. Like, you wanted this. I'm entertaining it. I'm here now. I don't know what you're doing. I know you have records done.
The crib's on his wheel like motor homes. Niggas love to try and test us. Like they know what we are. Chubbs got the magazine cover like Rolling Stones. Holy, this is how he wrote it. The nigga was waiting for a jet ski to pull up. Imagine what he's going to do to Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, Kendrick, stand the fuck up. You look crazy out here, bro.
Rocks a Compton Community College shirt. And apparently Kendrick's wife, Whitney, may have attended there. Kind of letting Kendrick know, nigga, you know I'm closer to home than you think. And also, if you tune into or you check out the chains he's wearing, apparently these are the Tupac chains that supposedly he had bought. It's clear to me that Drake wants, he wants this back and forth.
It's just going to be very interesting to watch this unfold and watch where it lands after.
Yeah, so that's some big time BS. But let's get to the real question. Is the music, the new album, is that some big time BS? Because I'm not sure if I played you guys the clip, but what stood out to me the most about what 21 had to say about the battle with Drake is that Drake didn't lose anything because he's still the number one guy with billions of streams, right? He's still the most streamed guy, is the word for word what 21 Savage used to describe why Drake didn't lose. That's fair and all. But then what he says is, my goal isn't to be the best MC, it's to be the most streamed guy, like Drake is. And that told me everything I need to know about how I should perceive 21's evolution as an artist going forward. When I'm disappointed in a project from 21 in the future, if I feel that his sound has not evolved, hasn't been inspired in a while, I gotta remember what he's in it for, right? He said it himself in this interview. He's not in it for the art, the love of the art to get better as an MC. He's in it for the money, which is, again, fine, but in my eyes, you're automatically held to a different standard if that's the intention you approach your art with. And over the years, with the entire scene kind of feeling uninspired, it makes sense that a guy who has played the background for a while would follow suit and feel uninspired as well. And I think that's what we get from a lot of this project. But I think because there's that nostalgia factor at play where, at least for me, I loved, the early Savage Mode tapes. And for a while, I really liked the trajectory that he took his career. When he taps back into these signature sounds, even though a lot of these songs sound like they could be on a project from 10 years ago or today wouldn't make a difference, there's no evolution, there's still that nostalgia factor that kind of tickles my brain in a positive way, right? He kicks the album off, making you think you might, if not get something different, then at least get something more energetic than what we're used to. There's a beat switch in the middle. The whole song kind of sounds like it was delivered in a one-take freestyle where he's switching flows on the spot. People often criticize Savage for not having a lot of flows. I don't think that's the case. I think he does actually switch up his flow quite a bit. It's more that his vocal range is not very wide. It's very monotone. So it kind of feels like you're getting the same thing even when he is switching up the delivery.
5,000! 5,000! That's $5,000!
Speaking of switching up, he doesn't really switch things up much for the first, I would say, 75% of the project. You do get a different change of pace by the end of it. The beginning, it's a lot of what you'd expect from a 21 Savage album. The dark, haunting production from the usual suspects, the Weezy, Southside, Metro Boomin. He does try to, add in some new flavors, some new elements on songs like Ha. He doesn't really execute it well, but I thought that the sound of the track brings it back to that like vintage Zaytoven and Gucci Mane sound. You could tell he's paying a lot of homage to Gucci Mane throughout this entire project. I mean, on this Ha track alone, he flips a Gucci Mane vocal at the end of the track. But when you hear it, you can't help but think that Gucci just had so much more charisma, so much more aggression to his bars, and it kind of makes you want more out of Savage when you compare the two artists on the same beat. I mean, even when he tries to get into his like Evil Knievel type bag where on the hook he's just repeating ha 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 ha, like he's not even animated when he's doing animated ad-libs. He still manages to find a way to sound monotone in those cases as well. As far as subject matter, that picks up on the latter half of the album as well, along with the production too. But if we're talking about the beginning of the album, a lot of these verses just stretch on far longer than necessary, especially Young Nudy. Young Nudy, to me, I gotta be honest, I never liked Young Nudy rapping. He sounds half asleep on everything. It's not for me. Now, what I do like though is how on a lot of these tracks you have either Atlanta legends or just figures in 21's life who come on at the beginning of the song and give a little monologue that kind of eases you into the concept of that particular record. It's a cool way to kind of narrate the project or have it flow a little more cohesively, and sometimes it leaves you kind of wanting more, wanting that artist's presence felt more on that particular song, like with the Gucci Mane one, right, where they implement his vocals onto the beat, just kind of flip a little sample. It makes you think, wow, he would do so much better on this beat. The same thing with Cup Full, where you hear Young Thug talking at the beginning of this record about coping with bad things, about trauma with drugs, and it just leaves you feeling like, I wish Thug actually put this into a verse on this beat. And it's songs like this, though, regardless of if Thug was on it or not, that I think are perfect for 21 Savage. It reminds me of that like OG Savage Mode sound. Yes, it's very monotonous, but it's like menacing in its own right in terms of his delivery. The way he's slowly stretching out every word that he says, it creates this very good symmetry, or the way he rides the beat, it's very smooth. It sounds like they're kind of blending together. He's also talking about the downsides of drugs on this song, Cupful, and you really feel the pain in his voice, kind of like he's strung out, suffering from the numbness. The vocals definitely embody that numbness here. The problem is, like I mentioned before, a lot of these performances, because they're so monotone, they only work for a certain amount of time, right? So it kind of stretches on usually a little too long. Like, the one thing a lot of these songs could use is some sort of pattern interrupt. Whether it's like a more energetic or animated or enthusiastic or just different flow in the middle of a particular verse, or bringing in a more layered hook, right? Something with a little stronger songwriting.
SpongeBob SquarePants!
He gives us these long stretched out verses in a monotone delivery, a lot of times with the same flow over and over again, to the point where it's like, all right, we need a strong hook if you want this track to actually be memorable. So speaking of pattern interrupt, I do think you get that with a feature like Lotto on the song Pop It. She kind of brings in this like 2009 Nicki Minaj energy. It feels like Freaky Girl remix. I think that's what the song was called, with Yo Gotti and Gucci Mane. She comes in with some good punchlines referencing her secret relationship to 21 Savage, saying effing on this British guy, crib look like Buckingham. But again, at this point in the project, like, all we've heard was a spoken intro from Young Thug, a bunch of 21 rapping, and then a verse from Young Nudie, right? All very low energy rappers. So to hear Lotto come in on some high energy, vibrant type of delivery, again, it's just a good pattern interrupt to keep the listener engaged. Now, someone who doesn't bring a pattern interrupt, but I actually don't mind the performance of, for some weird reason, is Drake on Mr. Recoup. I think I really like this beat, honestly. I see even the biggest of the big OV hoes hating on this song on Twitter, and while I can't say I disagree, I do have one question to ask. Did you not hear some sexy, sleepy songs for you earlier this year? That to me raised the bar so low that like it would be very hard to get worse than that. And I don't think this song is worse than a lot of what we heard on Sexy Sleepy Songs for You. I think he's kind of doing like 21 Savage's flow. It's like very choppy. He's in this weird kind of pocket. It's a little experimental for, you know, modern Drake standards. I like the piano loop on here. He lends off that interesting bar about, you know, his new nickname is Mr. Recoup, obviously in reference to the fact that he ended up suing UMG because he recouped that $400 million that they gave him in the contract, and they were supposed to sign a new contract. But when it came time for negotiations, the beef kicked off, and UMG ended up promoting Not Like Us a lot. So Drake obviously said UMG was purposely trying to destroy his reputation because he recouped his $400 million so fast, and they wanted to re-up the contract but offer him less money. He's Mr. Recoup. Do I think this is the same guy who gave us Wagwan Delilah and BBL Drizzy over the last, 15 months. So I definitely think that this is far from the worst performance we've heard from Drake, especially as of recent times. Not a good sign in the slightest for what's to come, but also not the worst we've heard as of recent, right? A lot of these other tracks in the middle of the album don't do much for me. Like, they all just kind of feel like one long track that I've heard a million times before. You got this on my mind necessarily, but it definitely felt like 21 Savage was opening up a lot more than the rest of the project. Came on the last final 3 or 4 songs. Gang Over Everything, Halftime Interlude, Big Stepper, and I Wish. I wish you see 21 Savage talk about all the fallen superstars of this generation. And it's just crazy when we talk about, why are there no superstars in the last few years, no one to emerge from this new class. I think this song perfectly encapsulates why that's the case, right? We lost so many talented individuals who could have carried the next generation. Juice WRLD, XXX, Mac Miller, Lil Peep, Young Dolph, Nipsey, Takeoff, Lil Keed, Pop Smoke. I mean, the list goes on. These are not even all the artists that Savage names on this song. So it's just so crazy to think about how much talent actually got lost due to either gun violence or drug problems over the last 7 to 8 years. And now they flip an R. Kelly song for this track where he's talking about all these fallen artists. I'm not sure why they selected that sample to be the backbone of this track. Kind of a weird choice, but I do really like 21's contributions to it. Big Steppers as well, the beat on that, soulful, bright piano chords, not enough pattern interrupts, not enough, memorable hooks. If you're going to try to make banger after banger, you got to come in with something that people actually walk away remembering. And while I wouldn't say this project is so bad to the point where 21 Savage should never rap again, what I would say is this. 21 Savage is asked in that interview what the best thing in his life is, or I forget how they asked the question specifically, but his answer was the fact that his mom now owns 2 mansions. And while that's like beyond incredible, beyond what anyone can ever aspire for in life, you got to think this is a man who, at least by his own words throughout this interview, emphasizes that he didn't have a lot of different options or ways to make money coming up without an actual working visa within America. Because of that, he found himself in a lot of trouble, losing a lot of lives, being a part of a lot of division. And that's prevalent within the rap game in 2025 to this very day. But the same thing that was guiding him back then is guiding him now. The money. And you know what they say, money is the root of all evil. Will it solve your problems? Will you be able to progress and evolve as an artist for your fans if money is the first thing on your mind and that's what you're doing it for? Well, that's for you guys to decide. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.